Okay, everyone, so we're getting ready to do our third speech now. You've done your first two speeches. You've turned in both outlines. Um, I think it's the 12th, that Easter Sunday, if you are a Christian, that is the due date. You can't turn it in after that date, okay? You can still turn it in, but I need to have both outlines and both speeches for you to get a good grade in this class, okay? All right, so now we're ready for the third speech. The third speech is, how am I going to succeed? And you are going to use your opinions and opinions from newspapers or news magazines or books, reliable books, okay? Authoritative books. And then you don't turn in anything, okay, on this. You don't turn in an outline. You do not turn in any of your research that you've done on this. And it means that when I say, when I say that you're using your opinions and then opinions from other sources, it means at least two. You can have as many as you want from newspapers, news magazines, or books, but you have to have at least two. And you have to quote them in your speech. You have to quote them in your speech. The speech is 2.5 to 5 minutes long. No more 6-minute speeches. No more 8-minute speeches. Come on. No 8. I never assigned that, okay? So it's just 2.5 to 5-minute speeches. And I explained that in the face-to-face class to all of you. Okay, but some of us have forgotten. All right, so what are your ideas? That's what I'm after. What are your ideas on how you are going to succeed? I have several friends, and I'm sure you have friends too, or maybe relatives who you know who have succeeded. I had a friend, I'm going to give you a little bit of story, so it may give you ideas on what you're going to be talking about, okay? I had a friend in Iowa. He and I grew up together. He and I went to school together. And then I went off to college, and he ended up being a truck driver. And then after being a truck driver, he started a greenhouse business. And that greenhouse business kept growing and growing and growing until he had 12 greenhouses on his property, and an extremely lucrative business. And he'd take vacations like you wouldn't believe. He'd get on his Harley Davidson motorcycle with his wife. They traveled all over the United States. They traveled into Mexico. They put that baby on a ship, and they went to Europe, and they traveled all over Europe on his Harley Davidson. And then this one time he came to Las Vegas to meet my brother and I. And my brother is another success story. He's an orthodontist, and he isn't anymore. He's retired. But the three of us got together, and we were sitting there at I think it was the casino that has the big guitar, Hollywood, and we were sitting in a great restaurant there. I love that restaurant, and we were talking, and he said, the thing I regret in my life is I never went to college. My brother and I laughed at him, and we said, you didn't need to go to college. There are some people out there who don't need to go to college because you have been a success in your life, a total success in your life. And he was, and he never thought of it that way. And at age 52, he retired, and he just traveled around on his Harley Davidson. And then I had another friend who went to ELAC, and he never finished ELAC. And he ended up becoming the top salesman. I think I mentioned him to you in our face-to-face class. The top salesman for Adidas and Silhouette eye fashion wear. And he always, he did not like it that I had an MA. And he did not like it that his girlfriend had an MA. And he was always bitching about it because, we had MAs and he didn't. And I told him, I says, look, Norman, you don't even have to worry about that. I says, you became the top salesman, the top. And I says, you were pulling down a lot more money than either one of us ever did. I said, so you're a success, a total success. So don't you worry about us and us having MA degrees, which for you, you didn't need it. You really didn't need it. And then the third guy was my trainer for 21 years. And because I have a bad back, and so he trained me for 21 years. And during that time, he said, I want to go to USC. And I said, you're not a good student. And he says, well, I'm going to make myself a good student. And I said, well, where are you going now? And he said, well, I'm going to PCC. And I said, well, let's see how your grades are. And he said, well, he says, I get nervous, I'm dyslexic, so I can't read well, and I do not do well on tests. And he says, I always flunk the tests. And I said, well, I might be able to help you with that. So I helped him relax. You know those relaxation exercises I gave you? I gave him the same thing. Then I gave him a couple more that I can't give you because I left all my lecture notes on campus in my office. And I don't remember all of those things, but I gave him a couple more. And I said, all right, now I'm going to give you these exercises. They are relaxation exercises, so when you go in to take your exams, you will not be nervous. And so he went in to take his exams, and he went in for the first one. And he told me, he said, I did really well on it because I was so relaxed. I said, good. When are you going to find out your grade for it? He said, next week. I said, let me know what it is, and let's see how well this relaxation exercise and how well your instructor did for you. And so he came back the next week to me and told me that he got an F on it. I said, well, then I didn't help at all. He said, no. He says, you did. He says, because now I know how to relax. And so he focused on it because he knew that he couldn't read well. And he focused and focused, and he finally was able to go in and take exams and do extremely well on them. And I asked him, I says, how the hell did you do that? And he said, well, he says, I learned on my own. And I says, you did? And he said, yeah. And I says, then you don't need me anymore, do you? And he said, no, I don't. And so he went on to USC, and he graduated with a degree, I forget in what, and then he opened up a shop where he trained people. And then he said, I want to go into golfing. He says, I love to golf. I says, well, I hate to golf, so if you go into golfing and you're helping golfers, I said, I guess I'll say goodbye to you. And he says, no, he says, you've helped me in my life. And he says, so I want to keep you. I want to keep training you. And so he went into golf, and he was training some top golfers around California and in the nation. And then he opened up another shop. He closed down that shop, opened up a bigger shop, and it was strength training for golfers. But he had me and a couple of other people who he just trained, because I'm not a golfer. I hate the game. And so he succeeded. And then he told me, he says, I want to become a cop. I said, well, that's what you wanted to be in the first place. He said, I know. And he said, it was always in the back of my head. And he said, I really want to become a cop. I still want to become one. I says, then go for it. And so he did, and he became a cop. And that's what he does now. So those are 3 stories of people who succeeded. And how are you going to succeed? Do you have a plan? A lot of people don't. A lot of people say, I don't know how to get there. Well, then find out a way to get there. Come up with some ideas for this speech, because I think your opinions on all of your speeches are far more interesting than opinions from books and magazines and stuff like that. But this speech, you do have to have at least two opinions from other sources, okay? No outline is required. No visual aids are required, but you can do this. On the first 2 speeches that you gave, visual aids were extremely important, okay? And so I graded heavily on those visual aids. And if you didn't have good visual aids, then you know what your grade was. But if you used them extremely well, of course your grade was much better. But on the rest of your speeches, if you want to have visual aids, you may, but I will not count down on them if I do not like them, okay? If I like them, though, and they help your speech a lot, well, your grade may go up because I'm a visual person and I like visual aids. So if they help you, well, then let them, do something with them, okay? But they will never go down. Your grade will never go down if I don't like visual aids, okay? So let's see, what else? Your speech is due on April the 22nd, but I'd recommend that you start getting it into me now. And then you have until the 29th. April the 29th is the cutoff date. No more speeches on that, and then we go on to the 4th speech. Okay? So let me go over it again real fast, and then it's up to you on getting in some good speeches. I've been hearing some real good speeches from all of you. You all are really quite good, and so this "How am I going to succeed" speech could be really good. Okay? And just remember that sometimes you don't need, when a door opens, I don't think I told you this, but when a door opens, go through it and see what's on the other side. I've had people do that. I've had people succeed at that, and they said, well, what about school? I said, school will always be there for you. I said, you can do it any time in your life. I said, but if a door opens to you, go through it and find out what's on the other side, because that may be your career. You just don't know, and I can give you stories on that, but I'm not going to, okay? Because I've already talked. Oh my gosh, I've talked almost 12 minutes. What a short lecture. I really am. I'm giving you short lectures on this, so you're lucky. Okay, so how am I going to succeed? And give me really good intros, give me really good conclusions. Okay, don't say I'm going to talk about. Do not say my speech is going to be about. Just come up with something that is really fascinating for your intro. And then tie everything together on your conclusion, because some of you are having problems with that for your conclusion, okay? And then use your opinions. I want to know, because if you don't have opinions, your own opinions, well, then your grade starts going down. Use your opinions on how you are going to succeed. And then use opinions that you have found in newspapers or news magazines or books that sound really interesting. Like Tony Robbins has written a lot of books. He's a motivational speaker, and there are a couple of exercises I use every day from him. And he tells you, he goes around the country all the time, Anthony Robbins, and he speaks to people. Big gatherings, $90 a pop it used to be in Los Angeles. And he told you, here I'm going to motivate you on how to succeed. And so I highly recommend that, you get out there and listen to some of those motivational speakers or read some of their books, because they'll give you some really excellent ideas on how to succeed. So that might be one of the books that you use from Tony Robbins. Or a motivational book from Brown. I forget his first name, but he's really good. So, find books, newspapers, news magazines, and find out what they say about what success is. Because I think I told you this, that they did a survey a long time ago of all the CEOs around the world, and they found out, they said, what is your key to success? And they all said failure. And then we started to succeed. And then we succeeded more and more and more and more until finally we built a big company. Okay, and regardless of what we think of Trump, that's what he did. What happened to Trump back in the 1980s? We didn't hear from him anymore. And then suddenly he came back, and he was a success. And now whether or not we like him, he is a success to a lot of followers as President of the United States. Oh, gosh. All right, so due date is April the 22nd, and then the cutoff date is April the 29th. All right, so good luck with this one. Have fun with it. You can start turning it in starting tonight if you want to. All right, take care, all of you. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.